Welcome to Bad Movies Among Us, and we're really excited to be bringing you The Room. I've got all of our show notes here. Are you ready to get down with this, Nohea?
I can't.
I mean, we've been preparing for this for a couple weeks and everything. I've got the notes here.
But I can't.
Why not?
Because I just got the test results back, and I definitely have cancer. I can't.
What's your favorite bad movie?
Mom, have you seen my peanut butter? High five.
Jeez, that's not cranberry sauce.
Watch me.
Some movies are bad, some are just plain rotten.
I'm not bad. I'm just filmed that way.
Movies Among Us.
So, how you doing? You feeling better?
Well, I took some multivitamins, and I burped, and I pooped, and I'm pretty sure I'm all better.
Cool. All right. So let's get on to it then, shall we? I'm so glad that you've decided to join us here for our premiere episode. I'm Alan Robertson.
And I'm Nohea Brown.
And now that you've found us, go ahead and relax a little bit. Take a load off. We know searching through bad movies is hard work, and you shouldn't have to do it alone. We'll help make it easier on you next time when you're planning out your next bad movie night. So allow us to do some of the dumpster diving for you. We'll dig through the weird, the queer, and the obscure, and we'll find the best bad movies among them. But before we begin this bad movie review, I want you to, if you would be so kind, come with me on a little journey. Back through space and time. Back to the tie-dye dream factory of late 90s California. Back to a time when real-life showbiz kids would pack off to the great Golden State. Some with serious plans, expecting to drop in hard and heavy to awaiting loving arms. Others, meanwhile, would land starring gigs working front-facing service jobs full of hope that they might get noticed by some bigwig with enough clout to see the talent and grace just hidden behind the register. The big screen and the little screen, they were still being shot on good old 35mm film. And this was back when anyone shooting digital was still making a huge low-risk mistake. And this is all just to say that it was happening here in California. This, all my time-traveling groovy cats, was where the proverbial party was at. And whether it was the small screen or the big screen, if you had big media dreams, California was the place to be, and Los Angeles was the epicenter, where the big bombs were being built for the culture war, and bodies were needed to line the trenches. And so some of those waitresses and some of those clerks and some of those people just walking down the street were getting noticed. Some for one-and-done tours of service, while others would make lifelong commitments to the red, white, and blue tinsel. So if you were back there, back in the late 90s, if you were strolling along the piers of San Francisco, maybe somewhere around the Fisherman's Wharf area, and you were lucky enough, if you had come along just at that right time of evening when the sun and the moon both seem to be chasing each other in the sky and the mist is rising from the waves and the salt hangs in the air and the sounds of the sea breaking against the shore nearly drowns out the choking chuckle of the gulls, if you were lucky enough, you might just see him there, somewhere in the mist calling out, this large, ominous figure. He would stand out on the pier, selling these small toys, often little toy birds. To the locals, he was known as the Birdman, and he would stand out on the pier, and he would sell these small toys. And this, my astral companions, this is the hero of our story. The Birdman of Fisherman's Wharf. And perhaps our hero's story doesn't begin here. Likewise, there are harrowing tales that should rightly be in any prologue about such a fascinating figure. But they aren't here for you. At least not today. Besides, even if you were to break all the rules of time travel and start asking questions, he wouldn't sell it to you straight. There is a reason we're here, though. Something does change around this time for the Birdman. The sparking of a real story. The Birdman, he gets hit by a car. The whole crash bam kapow. And he wakes up in a hospital. Seriously injured. And with all the cliche of a 1980s movie you could muster, he decides he's going to change his life and follow his dreams. And he actually makes this vision a reality. See, somehow, some way, he starts coming up with this funky-ass shit like every single day, and so he writes himself a play. And he adapts the play, and he writes it into a book. A 540-page novel. And the novel becomes a script. And eventually the script, it becomes a movie. And somehow this movie becomes a cult hit. And the cult hit becomes a blockbuster. And the Birdman of Fisherman's Wharf, he becomes our international man of mystery. The infamous Tommy Wiseau. So this odd yet fascinating figure, the talented Mr. Wiseau, is one of the most infamous filmmaker recluses of all time. And if you're unfamiliar with The Room, or its writer, producer, and lead actor, Tommy, let me just say, a truly great bad movie needs a great story behind it. And The Room has one of the greatest bad movie stories you could ever ask for. And we'll just start off. The creator itself, Tommy Wiseau, is a riddle wrapped in a pierogi-style enigma. He has everything you could want from a bad movie creator. He's immensely passionate. He refuses any and all criticism. His debut film, The Room, it premiered in 2003, and at the time of its creation, almost nothing was known about him. The movie itself reportedly cost $6 million to make, and as to whether or not he had millions of dollars stashed away while he sold toys oceanside, or whether he'd come into those fortunes in the following years, are still a mystery yet to this day. Honestly, no one really knows where Tommy got his money from. Now, he has said publicly that he made some of the money importing leather jackets from Korea, which may be true. I can definitely see Tommy importing leather jackets from Korea, but honestly, in my mind, I have a hard time not imagining him importing denim. It's probably just because of his Street Fashions USA commercials, though. And if you try and research Tommy's finances, this is but one stumbling block which you may encounter, and I assure you there are plenty. This project of Tommy's, however, is decidedly post-production of The Room. The commercial is well worth looking up if you're a Tommy fan. It features him doing a line of Hamlet before being cut off mid-sentence by a saxophone riff. Honestly, Tommy includes a lot of Shakespearean-style theming in his work, and he seems to have a thing for saxophones in general. By the way, his website, streetfashionusa.com, has the widest selection of some of the most well-endowed torso mannequins I've ever seen, all in Tommy Wiseau branded underwear, of course. So, I went to streetfashionsusa.com, thinking that was Tommy's only website, because I watched his commercial. So where else would I be directed? My partner, however, was clever enough just to go to tommywiseau.com. They are nearly identical, slightly different sites, both owned by Tommy Wiseau. You'll find a slightly different selection on both sites. Now, I am blessed enough to now own 3 pairs of Tommy Wiseau branded underwear, and I must give you my reviews on them. First, I thought they would be of lower quality, and that is not the case. They are actually very nice underwear. They're very well made. They are comfortable, but very tight. Not uncomfortable at all, but they are very tight and extremely form-fitting. They leave nothing to the imagination. They also come with a tiny little pocket on the inside, I assume, for, little foil packages or anything like that you might need to keep on you. Yeah. But they're pretty great. So if you want a very tight pair of Tommy Wiseau branded underwear to really push that crotch and pop that booty, I would go get yourself a pair. I'm happy with mine. Wearing them right now. Now, there are a lot of theories on how Tommy Wiseau got his money, and just to be personally clear, I don't believe any of them. I might as well say right now that I assume nothing we know about Tommy Wiseau is necessarily true. And that being said, theories on Tommy Wiseau's personal history and the origins of his wealth range from the ridiculous to the absolutely absurd. What we officially know about Tommy is, well, not much. He has commented during several interviews about his history, but only briefly, and honestly I don't think his testimony is a very reliable resource, as he is consistently inconsistent about his history. It might actually be easier to address what we don't know about him, and on that page, we don't know his age, or his name, or his country of origin, or where his money came from, or if he's married, or if he has any children. In fact, his Wikipedia entry on his personal life is but 5 short sentences. His last name, Wiseau, is not his real name, and is actually of his own personal creation. Remember the whole Birdman from Fisherman's Wharf thing? Well, he apparently took to that name, because Wiseau is really just the French word for bird, with a W tossed on the front. As far as where he is from, although he's repeatedly claimed to be French, and has said that he knows French fluently, which honestly I think that he does, I don't personally think that he's from France. He has said that he's from New Orleans many times, as well as vaguely from Europe, and has claimed to be French before. Canadian filmmaker documentarian Rick Harper has claimed him to be from Poland in his documentary, but I'm not necessarily saying this to be true, as Tommy himself seems to be highly objectionable to these claims. So what about Tommy's name? Well, likewise, after some 13 years of searching, they may have dug up Tommy's real name as well. So Tommy's real name is Thomas I'm not going to be able to pronounce this at all. It doesn't really matter anyway. You could look it up if you wanted to, but all I'm really asking is that you just leave this poor guy alone. He seems like a pretty nice guy, and he doesn't deserve all the slack that he gets. So, maybe instead of trying to figure out where he hides the key to his plexiglass hope box that he premieres his movies in, you could throw him a bone and go to streetfashionsusa.com. So all the guys out there, go and buy yourself a pair of boxers that will promote a confident bulge, and that's sure to get you noticed at work. Or, for the ladies, I guess, try a single style of feminine boxers? Maybe a watch? Honestly, good on Tommy for not having a creepy ladies section here. Not sure I love the watches, but he has official The Room hoodies, and You're Tearing Me Apart windbreakers, and of course DVDs of The Room, so not bad. And honestly, pretty high quality too. Underwear are really nice. Very, very personal, but very nice. My Blu-ray copy of The Room came personally signed by Tommy himself. So I would highly recommend anyone who's wanting their own copy of The Room to go to either TommyWiseau.com or StreetFashionUSA.com to get your copy, as you'll get a signed copy from Tommy. Now, as far as his fortunes before the actual production of The Room, theories range from fashion and clothing imports to real estate, various investment theories to inheritance, legal settlements, all the way down to the theory that he's D.B. Cooper. That infamous outlaw that held up a 1971 Northwest airline flight to the tune of $200,000, only to parachute away from the plane to never be seen or heard from again? And honestly, as fun as this is to speculate, I feel like the theory is personally more due to the wide discrepancy in his age, as well as his unknown origin. What we do know is that somehow this giant Greek god of man strolled into San Fran with a plan, and nothing was going to stop. Come hell or high water, Tommy Wiseau was going to be an actor, a writer, a director, a producer. He would do it all, and no one would get in his way. And like an unstoppable freight train, Tommy would conquer the world. Apparently inspired after having watched The Talented Mr. Ripley, Tommy Wiseau adapted his story into a play, before then adapting that play into a 540-page novel. He then used that novel as the basis for the movie that we're about to discuss. Now, if you haven't seen this movie yet, before we get into it, it's bad. It's super bad. And it's one of the best bad movies out there. This is a critically acclaimed disaster piece of a movie, and it shines because of one thing and one thing only, and that's Tommy Wiseau's unbridled passion. My friends, he may not be a good actor. He might not be a good writer. He sure as hell is not a good director. But he puts so much goddamn energy into every scene that I can't get enough of him. But before we get into this movie, it's time for a pre-show breakdown. The Room is a 2003 film written, directed, and produced by Tommy Wiseau. It stars Tommy Wiseau as Johnny Wiseau, Juliette Daniel as Lisa with a red dress on, Greg Sestero as Mark the Babyface, Carolyn Minogue as I Have Cancer Claudette, Philip Haldeman as a sexually confused Denny, Robin Paris as Oops, I Dropped My Chocolate Michelle, Scott Holmes as Mike's Gotta Run Back Real Fast and Grab His Boxers, and Dan Janjigian as the raging psychopath with a gun. Filming of The Room took place both in Los Angeles and San Francisco, and it took about 4 months to shoot. It cost $6 million around the time of production, but most of these costs were due to poor financial choices than actual expenses of production. It boasts a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 3.7 on IMDb, and a 9% on Metacritic, and 77% of Google users like this movie. But the real question is it for you? Well, The Room comes with a great backstory. It comes complete with a follow-up docufiction entitled The Disaster Artist about the making of. It stars Seth Rogen, James Franco, Aria Grenier, and Alison Brie. It also comes with a follow-up Where Are They Now, produced by Robin Paris herself. The Room features some of the best bad line delivery that you could ever hope for. It has awkward writing. It has confusing tonal shifts in storytelling. It has lines. It has memorable catchphrases, footballs and fields, pictures of spoons that move around, awkward sex scenes, bad lighting, unnecessary green screen, unexpected flashes of rage, all with mediocre filming and okayish sound work. The Room shines as a unique bad movie in that it manages to be the vision of a single creator, who had no studio, writers, or producers behind him, leaving this as a solely different kind of work other than, say, a Blumhouse or a Full Moon production, who kind of know what they're doing, they know they're making low-end movies. And that's not to say they don't put effort